I am Ms.V.Santhiya, Assistant Professor of B.Voc Marine Food Processing and Preservation Technology, A.D.M.College for Women, Autonomous, Nagapattinam. Today, let's see Fisheries Economics. Unit 1, Introduction to Economics, Microeconomics, Demand, Law of Demand, Supply and Market Prices, Elasticity of Demand, and Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility. Objectives. Some of the most commonly declared objectives of fisheries management are resource conservation, food production, generation of economic wealth, generation of reasonable income for fishers, maintaining employment for fishers, and maintaining the viability of fishing communities. To minimize the impacts of fishing on the physical environment and non-target and associated and dependent species, to maximize the net incomes of participating fishers, and to minimize employment opportunities for those dependent on the fishery for their livelihoods, that is social. Introduction to Economics. Economics is perhaps one of the most important branches of science, for it's concerned with human well-being. The term economics was derived from two Latin words, ecos and demi, which means to manage household. Although there are several definitions of economics, four are considered relevant and important. They are wealth definition, welfare definition, scarcity definition, and growth definition. Next we see about microeconomics. The terms microeconomics and macroeconomics were first used by Swedish economist Ragnar Frisch in 1920s. Microeconomics deals with individuals, households, firms, and industries or individual prices, wages, or incomes. It studies the economic motives and behavior patterns of individual consumers and producers involved in organizing and operating individual business, firms, or industries. Macroeconomics is the study of economic system as a whole of the aggregate consumption and demand and of the aggregate saving, investment, and employment in the economy. It deals with aggregates and averages of the system rather than individual items in it. Next, demand. Demand is defined as a desire for a commodity or service supported with necessary purchasing power and willingness to pay a price for it. Such a desire is called effective demand. Thus, all desires are not demands. Demand is expressed with reference to price and time only. Demand without price or time has no relevance. The demand should always be expressed in terms of quantity at a particular price at a particular place. For example, the demand for sea fish in Chennai city may be 50 tons per day at a price of say rupees 150 per kg. We have seen that human wants are unlimited, but the resources are limited but have alternative uses. So, want satisfying behavior of human beings in a resource constrained situation is the central theme of economics. To satisfy our wants, we need to consume goods and services. So, consumption of dictates production. Hence, it is said that it is wise to produce what could be marketed easily rather than try to market what could be produced easily. Demand is a desire packed up with the necessary purchasing power and the willingness to pay for it. The law of demand states that when the price of good increases, its demand decreases and vice versa. That means the price of good decreases and its demand increases. That is the law of demand. Demand function shows the determinants of demand. The demand function may be specified as follows. D is equal to F into Px, Py, and I, where D is the demand, Px is the price of good, Py is price of substitute good, and I is income of the consumer. Law of demand. The law of demand reveals the relationship between the price of commodity and the quantity demanded of it in a market. The law of demand states that Other things being equal, the quantity demanded of good increases with a fall in price and vice versa. That means the quantity demanded of good decreases with a rise in price. As quantity demanded varies inversely with price. Determinants of demand. Many factors influence demand. These are called determinants of demand. Four important determinants of demand are price of the good, price of the substitute good, income of the consumer, and the taste and preference of the consumer. Next, we see about elasticity of demand. The elasticity of demand is defined as the rate of change in quantity demanded for a given change in price. It is primarily related to extension or contraction of demand for a fall or rise in price. Hence, this is called price elasticity of demand. But there are other factors which influence elasticity of demand, and accordingly we have three types of elasticity of demand. They are price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, and cross elasticity of demand. First one is price of elasticity demand. The price elasticity of demand is to ratio of proportionate change in the quantity demanded of a given commodity to a given proportionate change in its price. E is equal to proportionate change in quantity divided by relative changes in price, where E is the elasticity of demand. The term E gives the coefficient of price elasticity of demand. If E is greater than 1, the demand is said to be elastic. If E is less than 1, the demand is said to be inelastic. And if E is equal to 1, the demand is unitary. The term elastic and inelastic are only relative terms. Based on the elasticity, we have 5 types of demand. Second one is income elasticity of demand. The income elasticity of demand is the ratio of proportionate change in the quantity demanded of a commodity to a given proportionate change in the income of the consumer. EY is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in income. There EY is the economic elasticity of demand. Last one is cross of elasticity demand. The degree of change in demand for a product as a result of change in the price of another product is known as cross elasticity of demand. It shows how the demand for the commodity depends on the price of related commodities, which may be substitutes or complements. The formula for cross elasticity of demand is as follows. EC is equal to percentage change in demand for product A divided by percentage change in price in product B. There E is cross elasticity of demand. Supply and marketable price. Supply. The term supply refers to the quantity of a good offered for sale at a given price. Like demand, supply is always with reference to a price and a point of time. Earlier, we learned that an inverse relationship exists between demand and price. The law of supply states that other things remaining equal, as the price of commodity increases, its supply also tends to increases. At higher prices, more sellers are interested to produce more and each existing seller wanted to sell more. When price declines, the opposite holds good. Supply determinants. The supply of a commodity is determined by many factors, some of which are listed. They are price of the good which is to be supplied, price of other goods, prices of factors of production, number of producers or sellers, entry of new firms, technology, government policy, and discovery of new raw materials. Market price. We will examine how market determine the price of goods and the quantity sold and consumed. A market is a set of arrangements for the exchange of a good or a service. A barter system is a market system in which goods or services are traded directly for other goods or services. If you agree to repair your neighbor's computer in return for his or her assistance in painting your house, you have engaged in a partner transaction. While a barter system may be able to function effectively in a simple economy in which a limited variety of goods are produced, it cannot function well in a complex economy that produces an extensive collection of goods and services. The primary problem associated with a barter system is that main trade requires a double coincidence of wants. This means that trade can only take place if each person wants what the other person is willing to trade and is willing to give up what the other person wants. In a developed economy in which a diverse collection of goods and services are produced, locating someone willing to make the trade that you decide may be quite difficult and costly. If you repair TVs and are hungry, you must find someone with a broken TV who is willing to trade food for TV repairs. Because it is costly to arrange such a transaction, economists note that barter transactions have relatively high transactions cost. Next, we see about law of diminishing marginal utility. Introduction. Wants or desires are one of the distinguishing features of all living creatures, but are pronounced most stantly by human beings. Our life is geared towards satisfaction of wants. Characteristics of wants. Wants have the following characteristics. Wants are unlimited in number and variety. Particular want is desirable. Wants are complementary. Wants are competitive. Wants are alternative. Wants are recurrent, and wants may be unconscious also. Next, utility. Wants are satisfied by consuming goods and services. The want satisfying power of goods and services is called utility. There are 4 forms of utility. They are form utility, place utility, time utility, and possession utility. First one is form utility. If the utility of good changes when its physical form is changed, it's called form utility. The utility of wood, for example, increases when its physical form is changed into finished goods such as tables and chair. That is the best example for form utility. Next one is place utility. When the utility changes when a good is moved from one place to another, then it's called place utility. For example, transport of apples from Himachal Pradesh to South India fetches a higher price as its utility increases. Next one is time utility. When the utility of good changes due to time, it's known as time utility. Many food products are produced during seasons, but if they are preserved and marketed during off-season period, their utility reflected by prices increases. Last one is possession utility. If the utility of a good changes when owned by a popular person, then it's called possession utility. For example, pen or spectacle used by Mahatma Gandhi. Law of diminishing marginal utility. We live in the pursuit of satisfying our wants. However, the process of satisfying wants is influenced by the law of marginal utility. When a person consumes a good successively, the utility derived from the consumption of each successive unit of the good goes on decreasing, becomes zero, and then turns negative, which forces consumption of the good to stop. Alfred Marshall defined the law as follows. The additional benefit which a person derives from a given increases of his stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in stock that he already has. The law operates for 2 reasons. Each want to satiable, and goods are imperfect substitutes for one another, and they tend to be consumed in appropriate proportions. Next, let's we see summary of fisheries economics. Fishery economics is a central component to fishery management, explaining stakeholder behavior as well as the impact of various management decisions. This module summarizes the basic principles of fisheries economics and the harvesting of a natural resource, overview of Scarfer model, and how basic economic principles can lead to one understanding of the status of a fish stock in terms of overfishing, and optimal levels of harvest. This includes more complex discussion on resources, investment, and return on fishing as it relates to uncertainty and rational decision making by harvesters.